The penalty pass. The penalty pass is perhaps the most famous and divisive example of using a set piece for maximum showmanship and strategic effect. Instead of blasting the ball towards the goal, the taker simply rolls the ball sideways for a teammate to run onto and shoot. When executed perfectly, it feels like an expertly crafted trick play. The keeper dives one way, the teammate scores, leaving defenders confused. This iconic move was first pulled off by Dutch legend Johan Cruyff in 1982 with Ajax, linking up with Jesper Olsen in a move that instantly went into football folklore. Decades later, it was sensationally revived by Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez for Barcelona against Celta Vigo in 2016, sending the Camp Nou into chaos. Crucially, the move itself is not illegal. As long as the ball moves forward and another player takes the shot, it satisfies the rule. The enduring controversy is over whether it constitutes unsporting behaviour. For goalkeepers, it feels profoundly unfair and humiliating. For teammates, it's a massive gamble, as demonstrated by the spectacular failure of Arsenal legends Thierry Henry and Robert Pires in 2005 against Manchester City, which completely botched it, earning laughter instead of applause. It remains a high-risk act that either results in genius or disaster. The rainbow flick. Few tricks capture football's pure, unadulterated flair quite like the rainbow flick. This high-skill move is simple in theory, but devastatingly difficult in practice. The player rolls the ball up the back of their calf, then flicks it with their heel over their own head in a high arc, launching it past the defender. Pulling it off cleanly sees the crowd go wild. Missing it, however, can make the player look foolish. Superstar Neymar turned the rainbow flick into his calling card. In Brazil, fans cheered it as pure artistry, the kind of trick that makes the sport beautiful. But in Europe, the reception was often much colder. In the 2015 Copa del Rey final, Neymar tried it late in the game when Barcelona were already winning, causing Athletic Bilbao defenders to immediately explode with anger and confront him on the spot. This move sits in a strange and controversial space. It is not against the explicit laws of the game. However, referees have the discretionary power to caution it under the broad umbrella of unsporting behaviour if they believe the action is being performed purely to mock or provoke opponents. The fact that referees in League One even booked him for provocation after pulling the trick near the corner flag highlights this fine line between skill and disrespect. The donkey free kick. In 1970, Coventry City unveiled an audacious dead ball routine in football history, an act of sheer cheek that instantly resulted in a rule change. The spectacle involved midfielder Willie Carr crouching over the stationary ball, gripping it firmly between his ankles and expertly flicking it up into the air. Teammate Ernie Hunt was waiting just a few steps away to smash the airborne ball on the volley, rocketing it straight past the bewildered Everton goalkeeper. The crowd erupted, commentators lost their minds, and the move immediately went into highlight reels as a stroke of mad genius, effectively rewriting how dead balls could be played. Carr essentially turned his legs into a tool for lifting the ball, allowing Hunt to strike it. The goal was instantly named the BBC's Goal of the Season, celebrated by fans who loved the creativity. However, officials were fuming behind the scenes. The Football Association quickly reviewed the trick, deciding it gave an unfair advantage. By the following year, the donkey free kick was officially banned under changes to free kick procedure rules. It became a legendary one-hit wonder, celebrated in highlight shows but permanently outlawed in the law book. The double touch penalty. The double touch penalty is the most heartbreaking of controversial moves, often occurring purely by accident in high-pressure situations like a shootout. The rule is simple. The kicker must not play the ball a second time until it has touched another player. This rule is in place to prevent a player from attempting to dribble the ball closer to the goal. However, the controversy explodes when a player slips. A recent famous case involved Julian Alvarez in a Champions League shootout against Real Madrid. Alvarez slipped, and his non-kicking foot barely made contact with the ball before his shooting foot, resulting in a goal that was immediately disallowed by VAR for the double touch infraction. The decision caused uproar, with many arguing that the accidental nature should not be punished so harshly. UEFA later clarified that under the rule at the time, VAR was correct. However, IFAB, the sport's rule-making body, later reviewed and clarified the rule. The new interpretation is that if the kick is successful, but an unintentional second touch occurs, the kick should be retaken. The old rule had a double touch, resulting in a miss if it happened during open play, but in a penalty shootout, it resulted in a disallowed goal. This change marks a significant shift, acknowledging the harshness of punishing an accidental slip. Time wasting. While not a skill in the technical sense, deliberate time wasting is one of the most persistent and cautioned infractions in football, now being strictly targeted by officials. The underlying goal is to unfairly run down the clock when a team holds a precarious lead, gaining an illegitimate advantage. This unsporting tactic manifests in numerous ways: excessively delaying a throw-in, taking an unnecessarily long time over a goal kick, slow walking off the field during a substitution, or, most cynically, faking an injury. Referees are instructed to issue a yellow card for time wasting. The modern game has seen a major crackdown on this anti-flow act to increase the ball in play time, which was often as low as 55 minutes per match in some major leagues. Newer, stricter rules, such as those implemented in the MLS, demonstrate the seriousness of the ban. If a player fakes an injury and requires over 15 seconds of treatment on the field, they must be treated off the field and cannot return for a minimum of 2 minutes. This systemic effort proves that the ban on time wasting is a fundamental attempt to curb unsporting gamesmanship and preserve the pure enjoyment of the sport. The flip throw-in. The flip throw-in is a spectacular move that looks like it belongs in a gymnastics competition rather than a football match. Instead of a normal run-up, the player grips the ball, performs a front flip, and uses the momentum to launch it like a missile into the box. The result is a throw-in that frequently travels farther than some corner kicks. American defender Michael Lewis made it popular in the 1990s, and its highlights still circulate in youth and even some professional matches. Defenders are forced to treat it like a set piece, rather than a routine throw-in. The controversy has always centred on its adherence to the laws of the game for throw-ins, which demand two specific conditions. Both feet must be on the ground at release, and the throw must come from behind and over the head. Referees have debated whether the flip violates these rules, particularly by using the ground as a springboard. Most allow it if the feet are firmly set on release. However, plenty argue that it fundamentally bends the spirit of a throw-in. It's a technical loophole, technically legal if perfectly executed, but dramatically outside the game's normal expectations. The seal dribble. In the mid-2000s, Brazilian forward Curlon burst onto the scene with a mesmerising trick that looked more like a street performance than serious football. The move, branded the seal dribble, involved him flicking the ball onto his forehead, expertly balancing it, and then starting to run, bouncing the ball as he went, like a talented juggler. It was dazzling, a one-man show that thrilled fans. The problem? Defenders couldn't get near him without serious risk of committing a foul. Trying to tackle low meant risking a boot smash to his face. Going high meant missing entirely. The move sparked outrage because there was effectively no fair way to defend against it. Opponents, frustrated and desperate, resorted to violence. One Atletico Mineiro defender famously elbowed Curlon in the face during a match, earning a 5-game suspension, while others simply hacked him down just to stop the run. Referees had a constant nightmare. According to Law 12, anything that puts an opponent at risk can be called playing in a dangerous manner. The seal dribble sat right on that line, technically legal, but leading defenders to such desperation that chaos and violence followed. It is the perfect example of a move that, while not explicitly outlawed, is highly cautionable and frequently argued should be banned outright. The paradinha penalty. Brazil has always been the land of football flair, and the penalty spot was no exception to this cultural display. The move, known as the paradinha, which literally translates to little stop, became a significant psychological challenge against goalkeepers. The idea, pioneered decades ago by players like D and Pelé, was elegantly simple. The kicker would run up to the penalty spot, pause mid-stride just before making contact, wait for the keeper to commit to a dive, and then calmly slot the ball into the opposite side of the net. It was cheeky, devastatingly effective, and for goalkeepers, it was extremely difficult to defend. Modern superstars like Neymar revived the move on the big stage, adding his trademark swagger to its execution. The controversy stemmed from the humiliation of the keepers and the sheer inconsistency of referee calls. By 2010, FIFA had seen enough and intervened. A new rule was introduced to clarify the situation. Feinting during the run-up is permitted. However, faking after completing the run-up, meaning stopping completely to trick the keeper, was made explicitly illegal. The penalty is cancelled, the kicker receives a yellow card, and the keeper finally gets a sigh of relief. FIFA made its position clear. The skill that shook the rulebook is officially banned. Goalkeeper dropkick delay. The goalkeeper dropkick itself is a technical skill, but its most controversial history lies in its repeated, excessive use to waste time, which ultimately led to a critical rule change. Prior to 1992, the back pass rule did not exist. This meant defenders could pass the ball back to their keeper, who could then pick it up and hold it indefinitely to stall the game or relieve pressure, especially when holding a narrow lead. To curb this anti-football tactic, FIFA introduced the 1992 back pass rule. However, a loophole persisted. Once the keeper legally gained possession from a cross or a legal head-chest passback, they could still hold the ball for an unreasonably long time, effectively delaying the game. The specific delay skill involved the keeper walking to the edge of the box, repeatedly faking the powerful dropkick launch before finally punting the ball. This drawn-out routine was another form of time wasting. To eliminate this stall tactic, FIFA subsequently tightened the rule to limit the time a goalkeeper could hold the ball in their hands to a maximum of 6 seconds. Exceeding this limit results in an indirect free kick for the opposition. This rule effectively banned the ability to use the dropkick preparation as a deliberate, time-wasting delay tactic. The indirect free kick passback. This controversial scenario is a perfect demonstration of players exploiting a loophole to circumvent the spirit of an existing rule. Following the introduction of the 1992 back pass rule, which banned a goalkeeper from handling a deliberate passback with the foot from a teammate, players searched for a way around the restriction. The trick was performed near the keeper. A player would use their foot to flick the ball up to their own head, chest or knee, and then play it back to the goalkeeper, who could then pick it up legally because the last contact was made with a part of the body other than the foot. The intent was to find a technical way to pass the ball back with the foot's initial action. FIFA's response was sharp and focused on the player's intent, effectively banning the practice. Law 12 now states that if the referee believes a player attempts to bypass the rule by using their foot to lift the ball and then heading it to the keeper, they must be cautioned for unsporting conduct. This offence is committed by the player seeking to circumvent both the spirit and the letter of the law. Regardless of whether the goalkeeper actually handles the ball, the punishment is a yellow card and an indirect free kick awarded to the opposition. This ban ensures players cannot use clever body movements to nullify the back pass rule. The shirt catch/stall. The shirt catch, or head stall, is a subtle, largely forgotten trick that FIFA had to specifically clamp down on, classifying it as a severe form of unsporting conduct. This trick was sometimes seen during high balls, crosses, or corner kicks. The technique involved a player flicking the ball up and catching or trapping it in a stationary position, usually in the neck of their shirt, under the jersey, or balancing it motionless on their head or neck. The player's goal was to stop the ball dead, shield it from the defender, and waste time, gaining an unfair advantage by momentarily nullifying the opposition's ability to challenge for possession. This blatant misuse of clothing or the body to create a controlled stall was quickly deemed illegal. The move violates the basic laws of the game principle that the ball must be played and remain accessible. FIFA ruled that using any part of the clothing to gain control, or using the head neck to keep the ball stationary for an extended period, it was a form of handling or unacceptable unsporting behaviour. This practice, alongside the neck stall, was banned from professional football for life, ensuring the ball remains in play and cannot be deliberately trapped or held by a player's clothing or body without penalty. Kasiflava. Originating from the South African Premier Soccer League, PSL, kasiflava is a collective term for highly elaborate, creative, and often exaggerated showboating skills. These moves are deeply rooted in street football culture and are beloved by local fans for their sheer entertainment and spectacle. A typical kasiflava move might involve complex stepovers, juggling the ball, or performing unnecessary and overly elaborate feints, often performed while the team holds a large lead. The intent behind these moves is frequently to humiliate or taunt the opponents, displaying absolute dominance, often described as taking a piss on their opponents. While the physical skills themselves are not inherently illegal, their execution crosses a major cultural and regulatory line regarding respect and sportsmanship in the European game. European football culture strongly views such exaggerated showboating as unsportsmanlike conduct or direct provocation. Consequently, if a player performs an elaborate kasiflava skill in a highly provocative manner against an opponent, the referee is well within their rights to issue a yellow card for unsporting behaviour. This showcases how rules can be enforced based on the perceived spirit of the game, rather than just the explicit letter of the law. The down ground header. The down ground header, or low head pass, is often cited as an act of immense bravery, but also extreme recklessness. The move involves a player diving so low for the ball that they place their head directly into the path of an opponent's flying or clearing boot. The tactical goal is simple. Get your head to the ball before an opponent can clear it with their foot to win possession. The risk, however, is staggering. Mistime it, and you are looking at a stud to the skull. Referees universally hate these moments because an opponent swinging a boot in that proximity can easily be called playing in a dangerous manner. If no contact is made, it typically results in an indirect free kick. If contact does happen, the foul escalates, leading to anything from a direct free kick to cards, depending on the severity. Coaches might applaud the sacrificial courage, but referees are quick to blow the whistle because of the obvious safety risk. The rules prioritise player safety over such high-risk challenges. The spatting tape trick. This entry focuses on a controversial equipment tactic rather than a ball skill. Spatting is the practice of wrapping athletic tape, often elastic or electrical tape, around the ankle and extending it over the lower part of the boot. The primary functional reasons are to secure the laces and prevent them from coming undone, to provide perceived stability to the ankle, preventing excessive movement and potential sprains, and to hold together worn-out or splitting boots. However, the controversy is rooted in two distinct areas. Firstly, many players do it purely for aesthetic reasons, viewing it as a stylish part of their uniform or drip. Secondly, major kit manufacturers, such as Nike, have been involved in high-profile controversies where contracts with university teams prohibited spitting. This ban was not for player safety, but was enforced to ensure that the prominent brand logo on the cleat was not covered up by the tape, prioritising marketing over the recommendations of athletic trainers for player support and injury prevention. While the tape itself is not illegal, the contractual prohibition of its use by powerful commercial entities became a massive controversy that highlighted a non-skill-based conflict over the rules of play. The running knee lock. The running knee lock is a flamboyant stunt borrowed directly from freestyle football that occasionally tries to sneak its way into the professional game. The trick involves a player trapping the ball firmly between both knees while running, locking it in place as if it were glued to their legs. While visually cool in street shows or viral videos, it raises serious practical and safety issues in a competitive match. For starters, the player's movement is severely compromised. They become slow, stiff, and utterly unable to pass or shoot until the ball is released. This eliminates all element of surprise for the defence. More critically, there is a massive safety angle. Charging down the pitch with knees clamped together invites awkward collisions, flying studs, and a guaranteed awkward and high-risk landing if the player is tackled. This is why the move has never taken off in top level. Football. It is not explicitly banned, but referees could easily call it playing in a dangerous manner. This same rule that covers low headers and risky overhead kicks applies here too.